Okay, we're recording. Good evening. Welcome to the virtual event on love and dating during the time of COVID-19, a workshop on the use of poetry in maintaining mental health during the pandemic. My name is Rumi. I'm the acting senior librarian at the Venice branch of the Los Angeles Public Library. This is actually the second program in a series that we created on Rumi. This series has been developed in a framework called the Persian Poetry Forum of Los Angeles. Our vision for this programming framework is to encourage the understanding, interpretation, and discussion of the deeper meaning of Persian poetry in day-to-day life, for the promotion of mental health, emotional health, and well-being. This is a forum for people of all backgrounds to come together and learn. The emphasis of the group is to build bridges, engender dialogue, and create a sense of community and well-being in the Los Angeles area by sharing an interest in Persian poetry. Our forum promotes a platform to share and discuss both classical and modern Persian poetry and encourages both well-versed and amateur poets to also come and share their poetry, especially when it pertains to mental health and well-being. With that, it's my honor to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Ellie Zarrabian, is the founder and spiritual director of the Centerpiece Foundation, the Centerpiece Project since 2010. She uses her 20 plus years of experience in the field of psychology and spirituality to help people heal from traumatic life experiences. A former adjunct faculty at Santa Monica College, Department of Behavioral Sciences for almost 10 years. She then left the college to help educate and heal people struggling from trauma. Since COVID, she has been working online with people both here in the US as well as internationally. She's also the mother of two beautiful teenage girls, and when she's not working, she spends her time traveling with her partner. Ellie, welcome to our today's program. Thanks for joining the library virtual program.
Myself. Here we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Ramin. And it's wonderful to be here. I see some familiar faces. And it's just so exciting to see that 19 people have shown up today. So I'm really happy that you are all here and interested in this topic. I certainly am. So we're going to spend about an hour together talking about love during this time of uncertainty. And it's a tall order, but I'm going to give you some background and philosophy on Rumi's poetry. I'm not actually going to read his poetry. I'm going to talk about his philosophy and then tie that in with a real life experience of a client of mine, someone I've worked with, to share with you how theory, how something like Rumi's philosophy can actually be applied into day-to-day life, especially during a time like this. So again, it's a tall order. Bear with me. I've not done this before where I've actually covered theory and practice in the same talk, but I think it's going to be fun. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it's going to turn out with all of you. So again, I'm Dr. Ellie Zarrabian, and last year I joined the Farsi-speaking book club at the West Los Angeles Public Library. It's where I met Ramin, And then I also met Dr. Max Rahmi. He's here joining us. And we sat down together at some point and we decided it would be wonderful to come together and create a forum to share the beauty of poetry, Persian poetry, with the greater community, with the hopes of bringing us together, creating a bridge, a connection, and a friendship and camaraderie, and also in helping each other heal and benefit from thousands of years of wisdom. As soon as we gave the first talk, COVID hit. So we started and then we had to stop. And we just stopped since March. And it was only recently that Raman came to me and we said, well, why don't we continue doing this, but we can offer it online. So here we are. What I want to do is to present to you an actual case study of someone who's struggling at this time, and then jump into giving you the theory, and then come back and explain how the theory behind Rumi's poetry actually helped this individual. I've been doing this work now for almost 20 years. I combine psychology and spirituality, and since COVID hit, I've been doing this work more internationally, as well as with people here in the US, in different groups. An offshoot of this group became an interfaith group where we actually invited a Sufi cleric and a Tibetan Buddhist monk to join us on a monthly basis for us to have interfaith dialogue based on love and connection. And it's been a wonderful group. So I'm hoping to bring that spirit to all of you today. Okay, so to share a little bit about this individual who came to see me, I'm going to change all her information so that it's hidden. I've changed some things around, but I want you to just, I want to share the gist of her issue, which many of you may relate to. So Sarah, not her real name, came to me about 2 years ago when she was in her late 20s. And she said, Dr. Ellie, I'm a physician, I'm very busy, I don't have time to date, but I really want to meet someone and I want to settle down. That's my priority now. I have a full practice, I'm doing well in my career, but I'm really lacking in the area of love. So this was about 2 years ago, and we've been working together since. And in fact, it's taken her 2 years to be ready to actually start dating now, to find someone long-term and in a sustainable relationship. She had a lot of inner work to do. Then after 2 years of working on herself, she was feeling like ready that she could go out and start meeting someone when COVID hit. And she was devastated. She called me up one day and said, I can't believe my luck. After doing all this work, after preparing, after all this counseling, etc., I can't go out anymore. I can't date. I'm stuck at home. There's no way that I can meet anyone now. And what's making it worse is that we don't know when this is going to end. So, you know, she's like, for how long do I do this? Well, she was devastated, but I didn't give up. I said, hold on there. And to give her just a little bit of hope, I said to her, you know that so many love stories, epic love stories, have been written during times of turmoil and social unrest. They're great love stories. Don't give up, hold on. But at the time, in March, she couldn't hear this. And she went inside and just was beside herself. And the feelings of longing and pain and suffering resurfaced. What am I going to do now? How am I going to meet someone, etc. So I'm going to pause here and I'm going to jump now into the PowerPoint presentation to give you a little bit of background on Rumi's philosophy, and then I'll tie it back with her story. So you should all be able to see this right now.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so just very briefly, those of you who may not know much about Rumi, he is considered a Sufi, and Sufism is the mystical tradition of Islam in Iran, as is Kabbalah to Judaism and Gnosticism to Christianity. The Sufis, or the dervishes of Iran, are considered spiritual seekers who spend their lifetime dedicated to the path of love through a direct experience of the divine. You notice the word direct is in italics and it's underlined. Can someone tell me why I've done that to the word direct? Why have I put the word is a direct experience of the divine? Just anyone who knows the answer, just go ahead, unmute yourself and tell.
But it has to be your own experience, not through someone else, secondhand, someone telling you what is right or wrong, but for you firsthand experiencing it.
That's right. So a direct experience of the divine means there's no intermediary. There's no church, there's no temple, there's no mosque, there's no clergy, there's no one you go to listen to give sermons. It's a direct experience. And in the Sufi tradition, in the Farsi language, the seeker is considered the lover and God is considered the beloved. So we call this a divine love affair. Now, Rumi, if you look at the word at the top, in Iran, actually has a very long name. His full name is Maulana Jalaluddin Balkhi Rumi. Rum is the place where he was from. But here they call him Rumi, but in Iran we call him Maulana. So he's from the 13th century, poet mystic, and he's only one of our Sufi teachers or poets. We have many, many, many in Iran. You may have heard of some of them, like Khayyam or Hafez, but there are many others, including Sadi, Atta, Ferdowsi, Nazami, Jami, Sanai, and etc. What makes Rumi very special to us is that he has written over 3,000 odes and 2,000 quatrains on love. Oops. And his works his collected epic works is called the Masnawi in English or Masnavi in Farsi. So there he is. He was born in Balkh, which is the northern part of Iran. And he came from a family of scholars. His father was very well known already. In fact, he was given the title, the King of Scholars. But at some point, his father moved the family away from their city because there was a lot of turmoil. And they were taken in by a famous poet back then by the name of Attar. If you've ever read The Conference of the Birds, he's the author. And he's another well-known Sufi poet. So Attar took them in when Rumi was only 5 years old. And I love this quote where he says he was just so taken back by Rumi that when he saw little Rumi following his father, he said, "My goodness, what an astonishing sight. There goes a river dragging behind it a mighty ocean." There goes a river dragging a mighty ocean behind it, right? So the father is the river and Rumi is the ocean. By the time he was 34 years old, he was considered a master in religious text. He was a scholar. He had a school. He was counseling. He was teaching. And people from far away would come to visit him, people much older than him, to ask for advice and his counsel. So he was already very well known and very successful by the time he was 34 years old. He didn't need anything else, really. He was set for life. So he thought. It wasn't until he met his teacher or guru, Shams. Those of you who are familiar with the term Shams, it means sun. So literally, Shams became the sun of his life, his teacher. And this is where the story begins, is that Rumi is so taken by this teacher who happened to be pretty much a nobody. He came out of nowhere. He only had the clothes on his back. And here Rumi was this well-known scholar, and Rumi supposedly threw away all his religious texts, stopped teaching, closed the school, and spent night and day and night, behind closed doors, learning from his teacher. So people naturally were just completely astounded at what had happened. They couldn't believe what happened to Rumi. Did he lose his mind? So there was some concern, and there was a lot of jealousy around his relationship with Shams. There's some speculation right now, or there has been, if they were lovers, we don't know, if it was just a student-teacher relationship, definitely. But there's all this speculation. There's always been speculation around their relationship. But what we do know is that he became his guru, his teacher. And he was so affected by this man that he spent the rest of his life longing for Shams. But what happened was, because of all the jealousy that surrounded them, people banished Shams. They sent him off a couple times. Rumi sent for him. They found him. They brought him back. But then he was banished again, until finally he was nowhere to be found. Again, there are speculations as to whether he was killed or whether he just disappeared. We don't quite know what happened to him. But it left Rumi completely in a state of complete loss and devastation. And so he spent his days in a place of longing to be reunited with his teacher. I'm just going to turn the light on, if you just excuse me for a second. So this longing that initially started out for his teacher, his beloved, his human beloved, eventually became a longing that took a different form. It started out as an earthly kind of a longing, a love, and then eventually became more of a spiritual longing. During this time is when he wrote the Masnavi. And the gist of this book, Masnavi, is about this thick, with all thousands of poems in there. The gist of it is about longing, a pleading for love. Where is the one? Where is my beloved? I cannot find him. So you can see that this is a huge area in much of Rumi's work, the whole condition of longing for love. So this interplay between the human love, which then gets translated into spiritual love or cosmic love, is an interplay between polarities. The one who is longing is met by the one who also has been longing. Okay? And this interplay is seen in a cosmic sense with what we see with duality. When there's day, there has to be night. When there is life, there has to be death. When there's joy, there has to be suffering. We call this a dualistic paradigm, that one force cannot exist without the other. And here's a visual of this interplay between the opposites, this longing of the lover towards the beloved, of light towards the dark, of the seen towards the unseen, of spirit towards material. There's always this duality at play. In fact, it's so powerful that in science, we know that the polarity between two forces creates energy. And this energy is so great that if it's harnessed, great things can be achieved. Right? So if you think of nuclear energy, if you think of sperm and egg, and of course love. It can be so powerful that the energy that it creates can change the world. So here I just kind of give examples of this duality. When suffering is imminent, love becomes transcendent. When the lover laments in longing, the beloved rejoices in reuniting. If grief is the soul's plight, in ecstasy, it will delight. It's the constant interplay. So I want to go now, pause here and go back to the story of my client, the one I shared with you earlier. No, not polarity. Let's go to interplay. There we go. So let's go back to the story that I started out with. So most people would think, well, yes, we're doomed, right? COVID hit and you're single. And like my client whom I shared her story, you too may have felt that this is terrible, can't get out, can't meet anyone during this time. And what happens is that the depression surfaces and longing kicks in, right? Maybe some of you can relate to that during the time of COVID, actually your longing has surfaced and it's maybe even worse than it was before. So this is very alchemical, okay? There's a lot that happens in that place of longing. And my hope is to kind of give you a different framework to let you know that sometimes that longing is not a bad thing. It's out of that longing that something beautiful can be born. Now, in her case, in my client's case, she went into a deep state of depression and was working through this longing. But COVID became the vessel where she was burning off a lot of her, what we call ego, okay? She was reaching a place of egolessness through this medium, through this vessel called COVID. Unbeknownst to her, the guy that she had met 6 months earlier, whom she had really fallen for, and had tried to date a few times, but was not ready because he was too busy running around with other women, in fact, ended up in a similar situation as her. He fell into this place of longing too. All of a sudden, all the doors are closed. He can't continue going out, dating, seeing all these women. He's stuck at home. So the vessel then also started to contain him, and this longing started to change him. He started to reevaluate his life. He started therapy on his own, thought back to what was important to him, priorities in his life, and came to realize that in fact, this woman he had met 6 months earlier is actually the love of his life, and that he would be a fool to let her go. So for 4 months, he works on himself, also in this vessel of longing. And after 4 months, he picks up the phone and calls her up. And these two come together like never before. So here in the West, we spent countless number of hours and resources trying to run away from this deeper longing, okay? Because it's masked by grief, depression, pain, anxiety. And we want to suppress these feelings, or we want to sublimate them, because we always want to feel good. Here in the West, the focus is on feeling good and running away from difficult feelings. But here, what Rumi teaches us is that sometimes that's exactly what's needed for us to cook. And in Sufi terminology, often the soul is referred to as needing to cook. And the school of life is a place where we come so that our soul can mature, can cook. And so he says it's okay that through his own longing for his beloved, he was able to produce what he has given us 700 years later. Okay, so I'll stop here. I know that was a lot to cover. I want to give you an opportunity to digest this stuff and maybe ask some of your own questions, either for me to clarify this talk or to elaborate, or if you have a question that you want to ask. I think this will be a good place to pause and engage with you a little bit so that I see where you're at.
Thank you very much, Ellie, for such great lecture. The connection between the theory and practice in your presentation is enlightening. Before we continue, as I promised in the beginning, I'm going to stop recording at this point so we can open it to questions and have a little bit of discussion. So here we go.